Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, honorable members of Parliament, mayors, our councillors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to present this address that we have called and dubbed the Hope of the Nation Address. This crucial and important juncture in the history of our country. In 4 weeks' time, we join multitudes around the world to celebrate Christmas, the festive season. It is a landmark moment in our calendars, coming as it does in the final leg of the year. As people take time off work and families gather across the whole country to share priceless moments, to thank the Lord, and for the faithful to also celebrate the birth of the Son of Man, Jesus Christ. Sadly, our social and economic conditions have taken the shine off this great moment in our national calendar. We have the harshest and bleakest Christmas season coming, when men will go hungry, and the only people that seem to benefit from this corruption that we've seen in the country and this broken system are the ones that are connected to those in offices of authority. This country, our Zimbabwe, is no stranger to trying times. Zimbabwe is a great nation. It is intact, one of the greatest nations on the earth, blessed by God with a population that is some of the best brains on the planet. Zimbabwe is a great country, the great Zimbabwe, that the world cannot and has failed to ignore. Once upon a time, this Zimbabwe was a country of dreams to our neighbors. A land of ours once opened its borders to citizens from the region to give them promise of a better life for them and their children. Our family across the whole of the African continent, particularly those from Malawi, used to come here. Our neighbors in the north, the great people of Zambia, sailed across the Zambezi. Botswana from the west shared our schools and our happiness, our charity. Mozambicans, our brothers and sisters, called our beautiful Eastern Highlands their second home. Our South African friends found partnership and strength to fight for their own independence by partnering with us, even before our own independence. We stood side by side as equal brothers and sisters, as the region launched its important struggle for an independent sub-Saharan Africa and subsequently the African continent. God blessed us with a beautiful country, an educated, peace-loving people we are. In difficult situations, our people are toiling to make ends meet with the hope that imminent and inevitable change, real change, will visit us in due course. Indeed, it will visit us. All in all, we were a proud and able people. We remain a proud and able people. We are counted by all those in the region and in the world. And we've never been beaten down by anyone. No matter how big, no matter how small, no matter where they come from, who they are, we will never play second fiddle or second class to anyone. We will not be defeated. All who thought that they would run us for 1,000 years soon learned the hard way. You cannot beat down Zimbabweans. You cannot defeat Zimbabweans. We have a great nation and a great people, a great human capital, endowed with vast natural resources and a people with great heritage, history, and industry. But we are being let down by those in leadership because of poor leadership, bad governance, and policy contradictions as well as policy failures. As a result of this, as a result of corruption, bad governance, human rights abuses, failed reforms, failed policies, we are now in a difficult situation. We have now been isolated by the whole world. But 24 months ago, it was not like this. We had unbelievable goodwill. The international community wanted to help us. Investors wanted to come in. The world wanted to do business with us. We are once more under pressure from the international community. The United States of America, the European Union, and the whole world, including even internally, from our own supporters, our own citizens, our own fellow countrymen who are demanding change. They want real change. Understand this. Our selfless forebears who sacrificed their lives for the independence of our country envisioned a country where all are equal, prosperous in pursuit of happiness, quality life, and enjoyment. Indeed, even our constitution that came some 33 years after the independence relives those aspirations. Those are the aspirations we were bequeathed by our forebears. Ours is a jewel, a great and a beautiful country, a God-given country. It is now more than a year since July 2018 elections that gave the nation the breath of hope and belief. But today we are far worse off as a nation than we were before the elections. Hope has been replaced by despair. Our dream has now suddenly turned into a dangerous nightmare, a catastrophic nightmare. On the 1st of August 2018, we all saw it when fellow citizens were gunned down in cold blood. We realized we had in fact jumped from a frying pan into fire. When the election was stolen, we realized that nothing had changed, but everything has a price. The price of a stolen election is a broken down system, lack of legitimacy, and leadership crisis. Unfortunately, we are all carrying the cost of illegitimacy. This is because costs of illegitimacy are felt both economically and socially, even politically. With other countries and investors unwilling to re-engage and do business with us, opening their gates to facilitate the much-needed economic rapport and recovery. Nevertheless, this is not the time for regrets or to regress. When we were hopeful in 2017 November, we did so in good faith. We cannot dwell on what might have been, what could have happened. What is important now is that we have lessons to learn from that moment and then move on with those key lessons. One of the key lessons, fellow countrymen, is that only genuine change, real change, that is people-led, that is citizen-driven, is what is durable, not an elite one, not the one led by the gun. We have been reminded of the bitter lesson that there is no benevolence behind the gun. There is no benevolence behind the elite. There is no benevolence behind those who are at the top. The gun is a law force, never of consent. November 2017 reaffirmed the politics of force, but the politics we want is the politics of consensus, the politics of consent and democratic will. November 2017 also reminded us that change is not replacing a person with another in national leadership. It is real, structural, and substantive, far-reaching, comprehensive reforms, root and branch reforms, that which is transformational, not a show for the world, not a camouflage, not just window dressing, or something that is done to put lipstick on a frog, or to put, what I would say, putting mascara on a pig. We had somebody who ruled us until 2017. He was replaced by another ruler. Of course, the president of South Africa, then the late President Nelson Mandela, once described our problem in Zimbabwe as a tragic failure of leadership. He was on point. He was right in 2007, as he was going to be right forever, because our problem has always been a leadership problem. And of course, speaking from our situation today, this situation must be corrected. Although I speak to you from today in Harare, I have had the fortune of traversing this great country from south to the north, before and after the elections. I've seen the hope of the future on the faces of the children, on the faces of the elderly. I've participated in prayers for change, in demonstrations, in great heights. I've been engaged in serious issues in eastern border islands, in Tare, in Chipinge, in Matabeleland. I've seen the trembling voices, and I've heard them, of those who are trembling in anger, the unemployed youths in Kwekwe, those who are in gold panning, the artisanal miners. I visited hospitals in Harare, in Lawayo, in Pilo, Parenyatwa, and I heard the pleas of those who are sick. I heard the pleas of the health professionals who want to do their job, but they've been let down by their country. Although I've seen unemployment and the effects of a crumbling economy, I must say that I've learned something out of it that many have not seen on the faces of all Zimbabwe I've met. All of them hungry, angry, unemployed, on hospital beds, and in police custody. say the same thing to me. Life in Zimbabwe is hell on earth. They said real change must come. And this I heard from the flood victims across Manikani. I also heard the same from the flood victims in the southern parts of Masulu. In Lupane and in Bedbridge, in Pindura and in Kwekwe, I've heard the voices of all. Cotton farmers in Slovela, farmers in Marondera, all have said all they want to see is real change and a better Zimbabwe, a happy Zimbabwe, a Zimbabwe that we all are proud of and are cherishing. If we are to reclaim it, so be it. These ordinary men and women tell me one thing, that a better Zimbabwe is possible and a better Zimbabwe is coming. We make this presentation, fellow countrymen, 2 years after a military intervention in November 2017. Since 2017 November, our people across the length and breadth of our beautiful country, from Old to Binga, Duna to Buhera, Chiendambuya to Muzarabani, Kezi to Gweluchena, Plumtree, they have gone through difficult moments, a great moment of personal suffering, poverty and delegitimation, as a result of economic decline, occasioned by price increases, currency instability, lack of basic services, absence of water, no electricity, fuel shortages. In fact, they have been buffeted by a shortage of everything. Compatriots, our country is burning, weighed down by the huge challenges of unemployment, an economy that has been in recession since 2013. Inflation has seen a sharp increase in prices and massive shortages of essential utilities, erosion of our salaries, and all workers earning mega salaries. As you know, if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. And that is an issue that has buffeted us. We have issues of electricity, basic foodstuffs in shortage, price increases continuing to be a big problem. Poverty is increasing by the day, with most of the families cutting their meals or surviving on what is called a tsawon, 1 meal per day. It is a soft genocide. A soft genocide is taking place in Zimbabwe. I've toured a couple of hospitals, as I have indicated, and many large hospitals I have also seen and visited are now virtually closed. Doctors strike to end as 80th day, and there seems to be no solution in sight, no end in sight. This gives us a compelling cause and a compelling case for a new consensus. Fellow countrymen, I cannot be here to say it's business as usual. It cannot be business as usual. We cannot continue to put solutions for tomorrow and future generations. We cannot avoid tough decisions and hard decisive steps. We need a new disruptive consensus, one that acknowledges and recognizes the agents of the matter, one that places the citizen at the center, you, the people, at the forefront. A transformational consensus that will vindicate and salvage hitherto strayed and betrayed narratives, namely the liberation consensus narrative and the democratization consensus narrative, all of which were ably tackled by those who came before us. One of our key focus is to focus on the transformation consensus, whose key issues are the following: a common vision and a binding glue for our country, Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe we want and the Zimbabwe we deserve, the Zimbabwe God wants for his people. Secondly, nation building, national healing, and transitional justice. The issue of the economy, dealing with underdevelopment, rural underdevelopment, rural upliftment, unemployment, constitutionalism, the rule of law, the imperative of building strong institutions and strong ideas, big ideas and not big men, reintegration and globalization. And let me make this commitment. I, as Nelson Chamisa, your president, the president of the people, chosen by you, the people, I stand ready to lead, push, and execute the actualization of this transformation consensus. One that will usher in the Zimbabwe we want, the Zimbabwe we deserve. One that will create an ethical, consultative, responsive, and responsible consensus state in which everyone lives without fear and uncertainty. Look at our country. It is a case of state capture. State capture has become one of the extractive conducts and behavior in the state. It has become a major bind on the actualization of the Zimbabwe war. As a result of the last Thursday, the authorities released a bill, the finance bill, in which they seek to legalize the theft of USD 10.6 billion, which is out of the Consolidated Revenue Fund. Between 2017 and 2018 alone, you will see that over 8.4 billion US dollars was siphoned directly from the Ministry of Finance without the respect of the budget, the law of this country, the Public Finance Act, and of course Parliament and Public Finance Management System. Cartels have taken over Zimbabwe, and decision-making has been subordinated to some prebendal elites, to the interests of a few, and those few will continue to be a problem. We must address this cancer. There has been, as we note, a rise in authoritarianism and dictatorship. The year 2019 has seen unprecedented abductions, murders, intimidation, and arrests of citizens in Zimbabwe. The charges of treason and subverting the government being wantonly proffered against democracy, activists, and civic society, which is in itself a good yardstick of how this regime is entrenching dictatorship. In 2019 alone, more than 21 people have been charged with treason and subverting a constitutionally elected government. This number is more than the number of people charged with the same crime during the 39 years of Mr. Mugabe's rule. MDC MPs, their leaders, have been charged with treason, even on trumped-up charges. The number of trade union leaders facing criminal charges is shocking. The ZCTU President Peter Mutasa, ZCTU Secretary General Japhet Moyo, the R2's Teachers Union, Obed Masarawe, President, has also been one of the people who are suffering. We continue to have other human rights activists like Dark Coulthard who continue to be facing frustration and violations. We also saw and have seen people like Gonyet who were subjected to problems. This is indicative of the fact that the freedoms and spaces of democracy have been eroded through the use of force and tools of repression, which are at the disposal of the state. This now more than ever before. 2018 and 2019 has seen a sharp rise in state brutality. This disregard of human rights has continued. Police brutality has also incessantly increased, resulting even in the loss of one of the young citizens who was in himself an entrepreneur, Hilton Tamangana. Just last week on Thursday, I participated, in fact I attended and paid condolences at a funeral service of Tamangana, a young man who was murdered in cold blood by people acting, claiming to be the police. The family told me that they were not allowed to see their kin in the last hours and days of death. I also know that government did not send any messages of condolence to the family or apologize for the killing. This young person was killed while in police custody. The abduction of Peter Magombe is yet another textbook, a cover-up story that the regime tried to conjure up, which was an embarrassment. They tried by all means to say that the doctor had abducted and tortured himself and arrested the lawyer that represented their trade union. The same is the story of Gonyet, comedian, and many others, including Tatenda Mumbearana, who was also subjected to extreme circumstances of violence. From time to time, fellow countrymen, this regime has targeted members of the MDC and the alternative in leadership and also the civil society. The arrests are meant to intimidate and abuse the citizens. The people of Zimbabwe remain resolute, and the party of excellence will continue to be strong. In the last 2 months, the regime arrested lawyers, teachers, doctors, vendors, comedians, parliamentarians, trade unionists, and even police officers and military men and men, students and men, others for simply demanding economic improvements. This is not sustainable. And all these activities act as limits and sanctions on the economy. If we want a signal that Zimbabwe needs to be free, this is your signal. There is your signal. Everyone's signal. And I'm saying Zimbabwe needs us all. The time has come. We cannot keep postponing our country's freedom, our own freedom. There comes a time in life, in the history of man, when one must get ready to be free and get ready to self-release and self-liberate, to fight for what belongs to them and to make sure that they take themselves seriously. This has never been the chance, and the time has now come. We must bring this brutality to an end, create an environment of amity, peace, and unity. Those who are responsible must also be made to account. Our freedom of expression and association and assembly continues to be something that has been undermined and curtailed. There has been a placement of bans on the right of freedom of association, police blocking any attempt by citizens to peacefully gather or demonstrate or freely assemble. To date, more than 200 MDC local branch meetings and various district meetings have been disrupted. Sadly, it had to take the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the rights of freedom of peaceful assembly and association, Clement Vo, a short visit to Zimbabwe to observe that Zimbabwe was indeed repressive and abusing citizens instead of protecting them. The right of freedom of association is enshrined under the Constitution. We are therefore committed and determined to enjoy our freedoms and exercise our rights under the Constitution without any fear. It is so sad that the regime has failed to uphold the freedoms of the people and defied all reasoning by signing MOPA bill into an act. MOPA is essentially the same, if not worse off, than POSA. It is a continuation of an apartheid in Zimbabwe, of colonial settler regime narrative of repression and autocracy. We've also seen freedom of expression that has now been curtailed, as we see that media and access to information has become a nightmare in Zimbabwe. The empty promises of reform can be seen through this aspect. We still have one television station 40 years after independence, and it continues to churn out propaganda against the MDC, against the alternative, against the civic society, against the citizens. There's no reason why people should continue to be forced to watch one channel, to be forced to drink from a poisoned chalice. We must open the airwaves and allow more players to provide credible, quality, and perhaps cheaper service to consumers by allowing open, credible, transparent applications to be made to BAZ, the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe, to make sure that we have competitive, privately owned, independent, truly independent national television and radio stations, along with community radio stations. Fellow countrymen, the situation in the country is a clear source of not only stability within the nation, but also regional. Zimbabwe is a ticking time bomb waiting to explode and implode at any time. We are a powder keg that is going to cause challenges within the region and on the continent. And I reckon that the time is coming near. It is important to address the concerns of our citizens before the only option left for the citizens to take matters into their own hands and force the regime to address their current challenges comes into place. We must root out the culture of fear, intimidation, violence that is state-sponsored, and provide assurances of security to the citizens. Yes, I'm aware that not all of our security forces are in circumstances of repression. We are aware of the challenges that are faced by our brothers and sisters in uniform. Our security forces continue to face a number of challenges. These include lack of uniform, transport, accommodation, and food. Members of the police are using personal resources to print dockets and even attend scenes and take accused persons to court. Some of these challenges give room to corruption, which in turn destroys the nation and erodes the very fabric and image of the security sector. This must be corrected. Our team has laid down plans on how to deal with this from a reform perspective and deal and address with these challenges. We will build a professional, internationally recognized and acclaimed security system where the wealth of our members in uniform are catered for. The military, police, and prisons will enjoy the benefits of a new Zimbabwe. This shall happen. This is going to happen. We continue to face a debilitating humanitarian situation in the country. The poverty has now engulfed the nation in an unprecedented manner. I personally visited many homes and residential areas to interact with our people, to have a first-hand appreciation in the high-density suburbs in Harare, in Bulawayo, in Gweru, in Masvingo, in Mutare. Parents are failing to feed their children. School children are not going to school. Some are going to school without breakfast, without food. Our people are struggling to acquire the necessities of everyday life. Although the causes of the poverty are well documented, bad governance and corruption continue to be the topmost. Yes, fellow countrymen, we continue to see our country and our nation coming together to work and address effects of disasters such as Cyclone Idai, and there is no strategy or plan for disaster mitigation. The regime is busy investing in arms of war and ammunition, the abuse of people, instead of establishing strong disaster relief programs. Our new government will always be prepared for disasters to eliminate and minimize the effect of any disaster on the affected population. We also take note of the climate change that is coming with the threat of food security. And unless corrective measures are taken, the new normal appears to be one where the country is unable to feed itself. The challenge of Zimbabwe is to find a permanent solution of surviving this existential threat of indiscriminate cutting down of trees. God blessed us with a country, a beautiful climate, and an environment that enables us to live peacefully and attract tourists from all over the world. We must stop deforestation, indiscriminate cutting down of trees, and promote planting of trees, afforestation to protect our environment. The evil of poaching should be swiftly dealt with. We must promote clean and safe environment, a smart environment for a healthy living. I also take note, fellow countrymen, the disproportionate burden on women and girls, particularly being made to visit upon them on account of current hardships in this country. At all levels, especially at the household level. The impact of this crisis on women and girls needs not to be underscored. Increased workloads of unpaid pay due to the energy and water crisis, maternal and infant mortality resulting from the health crisis cannot be ignored. We cannot also ignore the negative coping strategies of early and child marriages, intergenerational sex, especially by girls, in tertiary institutions, and risk sexual behavior as a mode of survival continue to be an issue that has to be attended to. Yes, the issue of people with disabilities has now and continue to be an issue of urgent importance. It is an issue that has to be addressed and addressed urgently. But what is the problem? What is the nature of our crisis? The nature of our crisis is basically political. It is politics, stupid. The elephant in the living room remains politics. More importantly, the crisis of legitimacy. We suffer from the political legitimacy emanating from events of November 2019, the challenge of a stolen and disputed election in July 2018. It is vitally important that the crisis of legitimacy is resolved, and resolved once and for all. If we don't resolve it, we'll have another 2018 in 2023. We'll have another 2018 in any future election. Only the people of Zimbabwe have the mandate to resolve the crisis, ultimately through free, fair, and credible election. To arrive to this destination, there is need for an arrangement and agreement on key structural reforms and the definition of the issues that are supposed to be handled. We have already articulated the roadmap to legitimacy in our reload document, which is the return to legitimacy and democracy in Zimbabwe. We need negotiations, we need a consensus on the way forward, major structural, political, and economic reforms. And those reforms have to be implemented. We need a transitional mechanism, free and fair elections ultimately, resolving the issue in Zimbabwe. Yes, this would not be adequate without addressing the issue of electoral reforms. Since the independence of our country in 1980, every election has been disputed and contested. It is time to put a full stop on the issue of contested elections and disputed outcomes. We can achieve this fit by agreeing on a raft of electoral reforms that have already been enunciated and articulated in the Sustainable Election in Zimbabwe document, COSES, and also in our Without Reforms, No Election document, even our Plan for an Environment for a Credible Election Peace document. These reforms are clearly articulated by observer missions, especially after the 2018 election. This includes reports from the US Election Observer Mission, led by RI and India, the EU Observer Mission, the Commonwealth Observer Mission, AU and SADC reports. In our view, key areas of reform must include a number of reforms around the electronic transfer and publication of all results, a truly independent electoral commission, independent verification of the presidential election result and all the results that have been received, ensuring that the biometric registration is allowed, measures to protect the security of the voter, removal of state interference in electoral management, and total independence of the commission, ensuring once again that the election is declared, the state resources and state actors do not use state resources as abuse to gain political advantage over competitors. The electoral environment issues must be addressed. Violence coercion must be dealt with. The role of traditional leaders must be redefined, pushing back the frontiers of their control into areas of personal choice, where they have already invaded. We want to make sure that we also have equal access to the media, de-weaponize food, particularly in the rural areas, have institutional reforms so that we are able to remove our state from being captured. We need to also make sure we put firmly the proposal of the buoyancy of institutions in Zimbabwe to make sure that they implement a progressive agenda. In this respect, we've done a lot to make sure that Chapter 12 institutions are implemented, prioritizing the Zimbabwe Media Commission, prioritizing the Human Rights Commission and others, so that in our SMART documents, as we have already articulated, we need to ensure judicial independence, to include the existence of independent budget controlled by the Judicial Service Commission and the exclusive executive role played by Parliament in the recruitment and selection of judges and even ministers. We need national healing and consensus. We need to make sure that we deal with the issue of bringing dialogue to our people, bringing people together so that dialogue is put on a sustainable footing to move the country forward. And the following must be done as imperative. Bring our country together, particularly demanding that the leadership does lead from the front through service and sacrifice. To require, of course, additional issues around research and providing leadership to activities that we want to see. Yes, the challenges are many, but we must move forward to create a genuine democratic developmental state that Zimbabwe requires now. Let me turn to the economy, fellow countrymen. The Zimbabwe economy is in a tailspin, suffocating from massive headwinds across the sectors of the economy. The economy is not performing because there is no confidence, because there is no trust, because there is a deficit of democratic legitimacy and performance legitimacy. Without these two ingredients, it is impossible to have a social contract that is dependable, that is credible. The state can implode anytime because we have not addressed a soft landing platform to address these issues through national dialogue. And the key challenges we have identified look at the following: issues of depression caused by the economy that is in a cyclical, and some of these cyclical lumps and dumps are being seen through slumps and booms that have been taking place since 2013. The economy has been in a recession that is fast-tracking itself into economic meltdown. It is important to also understand that the economy is not performing because there is no predictability and certainty of policy. The policy mix has not been settled, and that has affected people. We need to refer back to basics and return our country and our economy to fundamentals. It is important for these measures to be undertaken to encourage massive productivity, to ensure that the economy is dragged out of recession, to also ensure that we attract investment that will be critical to do Zimbabwe's business, and making sure that Zimbabwe is truly good for business and address the ease of doing business indicators that must be attended to with agency. These are some of the things we must deal with. In depression, as you know, it's important to deal with issues of infrastructure, public sector investment as part of the key incentives that are supposed to be provided, including the informal sector being made into a formal sector. To meet this imperative and this imperative, Zimbabwe's growth can only be done through dealing with rates that are on average 70% in the next 15 years, so that in real terms we're creating jobs, millions of jobs per year. This is no mean task. It requires macroeconomic stability. It requires us to embark on a raft of reforms, fiscal reforms, monetary reforms, but also make sure that we balance our huge budget deficit with excessive expenditure, to propose a fiscal consolidation that will be pursued and that should live within our own means, making sure that we live with the dicta, we eat what we kill. The Public Finance Management Act must be amended to prescribe the issuance of treasury bills, which has been a big problem in the economy of our country. More importantly, if government is to borrow, such borrowing must not exceed, as per the law, 3% of the gross domestic product. We need to address our monetary policy and exchange rate. As you may know, in February 2019, through the statutory instrument 33 of 2019, government introduced Zimbabwe dollars. The sudden introduction of the Zim dollar was irrational, ill-timed and misbegotten. It was possible to issue a currency and expect the currency to survive without attending to the fundamentals. We have seen the local currency losing value every day, thereby undermining people's savings and investments. We propose, therefore, a repeal of Statutory Instrument 142 of 2019, the Finance Act number 2 of 2019. Put simply, we propose the re-dollarization of the economy in the mid-term to short-term, and in the mid-term, we then move to putting in place the plans and mechanisms to join the Rand Monetary Union. It is important that if we are to address our economy, we address the economy in an integrated manner, because our economy is integrated with South African economy, which is its largest trading partner. Due to the high cost structure imposed by the United States dollar, in the medium term, it's important that Zimbabwe must join the Rand Monetary Union, so that we are able to address holistically the fundamentals that are supposed to be dealt with. Yes, in terms of inflation, the mismanagement of the monetary policy, the creation of the man by the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, an expansionary fiscal policy, and the creation of treasury bills have all contributed to a return to hyperinflation in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's rate of inflation, standing officially at 100% and officially at 402%, is now second highest in the world, second to Venezuela. Inflation can also be addressed by a cocktail of measures, which include fiscal consolidation, macroeconomic stability, proscription of the rogue and quasi-fiscal man-printing activities by the Reserve Bank. And having gone through the sludge of inflation in 2008, it is not acceptable and also regrettable that the present regime has allowed the inflation ghost to bounce back. The current situation is an indictment against the present regime. Our debt situation continues to be a perennial problem. Zimbabwe's huge debt of 11 billion to the international financial institutions and the Paris Club, as well as more than 18 billion of domestic debt, continues to be a challenge. Debt resolution and debt clearance must be done, including the following: negotiating with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, and the cancellation of the debt. Negotiation with the Paris Club on a quid pro quo for calibrated political, social, and economic reforms. The negotiation of an upper-tier staff monitored program to assert credibility with international partners. Allow me to say that the current SMP staff monitored program, negotiated between the regime in Harare and the IMF on the 19th of May 2019, is dead and buried. The responsibility of its death lies completely with the rogue, erratic central bank that is corruptly pandered to the interests of the cartels. It is also dead because the regime has failed to meet its part of the commitments. Going forward, it is going to be difficult for Zimbabwe to be accepted for another SMP when Zimbabwe cannot meet its targets, in particular its budget targets. Zimbabwe must therefore earn its credibility something we can and we know is not possible under the ZANU-PF regime. As we have already seen, it's important for this issue to be addressed and to be corrected. As we move to another yet an important issue, the issue of gross capital formation. With the infrastructure decay affecting Zimbabwe, with load shedding of over 18 hours a day, the collapse of the railway system, decayed roads, where thousands of our citizens are dying every year, with drying and collapsing dams, gross capital formation is an urgent, important, significant step. African Development Bank report of 2012 report puts the infrastructure requirements for Zimbabwe in the tune and sum of about 22 billion. The resolution of the country's economic crisis and the cause of its political crisis must be addressed, which is the cause. Top of the agenda is the electricity supply. We need at the least 2,000 megawatts to the grid. The pursuit of a renewable energy will be key. So too is the independence of the independent power producers. We've also witnessed with the collapse of the economy, the collapse in social services. And the key issue there is the social service delivery that has been abandoned by this regime, thereby leading to a total collapse of both the public health delivery system and chaos in the public sector. Medical doctors are entering their 80th day strike, while their support staff, including nurses, are all incapacitated. Public health facilities have been abandoned before the strike. There had been shocking non-availability of basic drugs and supplies, including linen, syringes, bladders, and even gloves. Hospitals had been reduced to death traps. They had been declared unable to deal with crucial and important diseases which are curable, while practitioners were all reporting that the working conditions were now unsafe for their own health, and protective accessories were not provided. Instead of dealing with these grievances, the government has chosen a hostile route of expelling our doctors. As a result, patients are dying, particularly some are dying in their homes. This is an urgent situation, a catastrophic situation. I've visited many hospitals. I've seen the hospitals myself. The hospitals are in a deplorable state. Doctors and nurses are in desperate need of the little things, as little as the gloves they use. The elite government is, on the other hand, spending the little available resources on luxury five-star treatment abroad, the cost of which is enough to capacitate our own local hospitals. This accentuates their lack of faith in the local facilities that they have been presiding over the past decade. There are no two ways on this matter. We must immediately pay the doctors a decent salary so that they can come back to work. We must capacitate our hospitals with necessary drugs and machines. In the long run, we must have state-of-the-art health facilities that actually and equally and adequately cater for all the classes of people in the country. Allow me, fellow countrymen, to address the issue of corruption. Corruption has risen dramatically on the Transparency International Global Anti-Corruption Index. Recent work in the Public Accounts Committee is unearthed the massive corruption done through the Ministry of Finance itself. In 2017, the Treasury, without the supporting vouchers, siphoned off 2.9 USD ostensibly to command agriculture. This is captured in the Auditor General's report. The same report also indicates that 3.3 billion US dollars was siphoned outside Parliament and public finance management regulations, again channeled towards command agriculture. And who is in command agriculture? The chefs and the elites. The reports of the Auditor General are official. They are constitutional reports. These actions by the Minister of Finance go to the root of the staff monitoring program. More than that, they go to the root of any relationship between any government with the IMF. There's been huge scandals in Zinara, NASA, and other state entities where billions of dollars were stolen to line pockets to the politically connected. The catch and release charade shows that this government is not serious about good governance and decisively dealing with corruption is not a core business. We are entitled to a truly independent anti-corruption commission that will root out real corruption. The culture of corruption in Zimbabwe needs a multifaceted and rigorous approach. Our country is losing billions to corruption, yet begging for thousands in donor aid. We must immediately deal with incompetence by stopping nepotistic appointments and cronyism. More importantly, what is to be done? I know that a lot of you would want to know what are the critical, crucial, decisive steps that are supposed to be taken. We've always insisted that the location of our common problems in the political arena are firmly located in the political domain. That is where it has always been for the past 20 years. The legitimate deficit occasioned by the 2018 general election alone is the source of our problem. There was a hiatus between 2009 and 2013 when our country was run by an inclusive government under a power-sharing arrangement. But this was a short period brought by a political settlement which brought stability, some hope, but of course it had severe shortcomings, which shortcomings we've all learned from, and we continue to draw many lessons. We've always said it is important for us to collectively resolve the political question. Our elections cannot be free and fair or credible if we don't resolve these political issues. The political referees have severely been compromised. The outcomes of those elections have not been recognized by the international community. The regime is interested in sideshows and fallacies. This is why it came up with the so-called Political Actors Dialogue, POLAD. This is a group now demanding funding from the taxpayers, yet it is not connected in any manner or way to the taxpayers. It is indeed a hatchet job being done by this POLAD group on behalf of the forces of continuity as an instrument to sustain ZANU-PF in office. We are pleased to see, however, that our position that we have taken for a long time on the solution to our economic problems is inextricably linked to our politics, as is now being echoed by our counterparts in South Africa. The words of the South African Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Naledi Pandor, speak for themselves, that it is clear that even as we support the call for an end to any measures, the political dynamics that we observe are inextricably linked to the economic solution that thus the politics and the economy as well as the social need are supposed to be confronted simultaneously. These words are full of wisdom. They give us comfort because we now understand that it resonates with the majority of Zimbabweans. Indeed, there can never be an economic solution without a political solution. 10 years ago, SADC brokered a dialogue. There were many challenges to it that led to short-term solutions. We have learned much from that period, and this is why we need to deal with the problems. There's only much that can be done through dialogue, and that much is to make sure that we reduce the risk of politics becoming a source of toxicity in our country. Unless there is an outlet, the walls of the dam will give way, and when the breach occurs, no one, not even the force of the state, can condemn the flood when the people then choose to make and take a decision on their own. We believe that ultimately, the only solution to the challenges facing our country is genuine dialogue, credible, bankable, legitimate process of dialogue, fully guaranteed and scaffolded by the international community with deliverable benchmarks. And this is why we continue to call upon SADC to help us to deal with this crisis in ameliorating the consequences that have affected both the region and indeed our country. This is why in international relations we are now calling for an urgent intervention by SADC and the AU to assist our situation and restore normalcy in our country. Yes, we therefore call upon SADC, the AU and the international community to intervene and save our country from total implosion which seems imminent. SADC is rallying behind removal of sanctions as a liberation era war crime. While we agree that opening up a bilateral trade with the world, including Europe and the USA, will benefit everyone, in the end, without political reform, any perceived gains will be nullified by rampant corruption. What is the best path to a prosperous Zimbabwe? In our view, the best way to resolve issues in Zimbabwe is to allow all stakeholders in Zimbabwe to converge in understanding and building a consensus on the nature and character of problems in Zimbabwe. We believe that we must develop comprehensive political and economic reforms and solutions taking into cognizance the primacy of political interventions. Because without the resolution of the political challenges, all economic efforts will be futile. We need to engage in genuine all-inclusive dialogue rooted in absolute clarity on the causes of the current polarization. The agenda and objectives of the dialogue must be clear and shared by all protagonists. We must embrace and institute political reforms to deepen our democracy and enhance accountability in general, while specifically improving the management of our elections to ensure freeness, fairness, credibility, and transparency. We must guarantee undisputed poll outcomes. This will address key sources of our polarization, stolen and rigged elections. However, it is imperative to note that political reforms are necessary but not sufficient. With the above solid foundation, we must then collectively develop and adopt a shared national vision, strategy based on three pillars: the social, political, and economic interventions. We must then implement detailed economic blueprints for the implementation of our plans in all key sectors: agriculture, mining, manufacturing, health, education, and tourism. This with an emphasis of making sure that we implement and have a modern technology. We need to leverage continental integration, deal with the fourth industrial revolution and artificial intelligence. A clear policy of diaspora, including their right to vote, but also engaging diaspora for skills retention and making sure that we rebuild our country on the foundation of those skills and talents. The diasporans must be incentivized to partake in the rebuilding of our country. Peace and reconciliation is very important. The process should start with the proper consultation for all stakeholders to cover all regrettable episodes that Zimbabwe has gone through, including Kukuraundi, Marambatsvina, the fast-track land reform, the electoral violence from 2000 to the present day, disappearances and continued killings of people, particularly on account of state brutality. Must have a bangable debt clearance strategy, and it is important to show how the country intends with this debt and how to open up credit lines. We must have a transitional authority or a transitional mechanism, which is timetabled for a particular period. Some of you may ask, how is this going to be possible if Mr. Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF are refusing genuine dialogue? How long shall this continue? And how long shall we continue to suffer under this yoke of dictatorship and brutality? As I've been traversing the country, I see the great hope and deep passion in your eyes, the eyes of the people, both young and old, men and women, boys and girls, whose future is at stake. We are a nation of a kind and a generous people, with great courage, big hearts, resilience, and creativity. These qualities have seen us through extremely tough times, and we bank on them once again to see us through at this historic moment. There can be no doubt that we can stand at an important juncture in the history of our country. We can choose to be progressive, taking a path that is guided by intergenerational consensus, by a transformational consensus obligation, to look backwards and continue with the old politics and old economics that have left us a nation broken, divided, impoverished, and desperate beyond measure. We need to look beyond. The choice is ours. I know we'll choose the correct path. I know that we'll make it. This country, Zimbabwe, attained its independence from the blood of revered and courageous brave men and women who fought and some died for the right of each and every one of us as citizens to have the right to vote, the right to choose, the right to decide, the right to vote for a leader of our choice in an inclusive, free, fair, and credible election. The challenges of Zimbabwe are way bigger and far bigger than any party politics and go well beyond partisan politics, including our own party. A divided nation is even more destabilizing to the national vision, because more important than the vision is the ability to execute such vision. It is clear that Zimbabwe is ready for the fulfillment of a message of change that the Zimbabwean people have yearned for a long time. There is no doubt in my mind that the people of Zimbabwe are ready to give a mandate to a new leadership to lead the country to prosperity. We are ready, and we will do it, and we will make it. However, because of our circumstances, it may not be possible. This is why we need a new hope, a new inclusive and credible government that is able to take us to prosperity, that is able to address the issues Zimbabweans continue to raise. It is important to note that without legitimacy and stability, there can be no economic recovery, let alone progress in this country. Fellow Zimbabweans, fellow citizens, and the world at large, let me assure you, one day and very soon, we shall experience a wave of change like never seen before. One day and very soon, we shall enjoy smart cities, the bullet trains, the spaghetti roads, the world-class facilities that are being enjoyed elsewhere in other countries. One day and very soon, we shall enjoy the experience and economic boom that we have never seen before. One day and very soon, we will be able to say as Zimbabweans, we have managed to rise from poverty and living in peace and happiness. One day and very soon, students shall have full grants, health facilities shall be free, pensioners shall have a decent life, and water shall be clean. One day and very soon, our industries shall begin to grind again. Young people shall all beat the first crop daily. Our cities shall become hubs of opportunities. One day and very soon, we shall have a smart government and a digital economy on the back of an integrated national broadband and an infrastructure master plan. One day and very soon, we shall be able to wake up one day being drivers and players in the fourth industrial revolution and artificial intelligence. That day is coming. I hope that one day and very soon, we will all live without fear, without intimidation, without brutality, without hatred, without violence, without abductions, without harassment, without any lack or shortage. Love, peace, unity, harmony shall define our future, our prosperous future, our prosperous nation. Fellow Zimbabweans, change is coming. It is coming very soon, sooner than we all think. Zimbabwe shall be the greatest nation among the many, the jewel of the world. We are embarking on a process of building that inclusive national consensus platform of all stakeholders across the country to decide on the critical steps and action forward. Ultimately, our destiny is in our hands. We can choose to continue on this path of bad governance and human rights violation, or we can stop and stand up to a dictatorship and bring an end to economic collapse, international isolation, humanitarian disaster we find ourselves. On this account, we know that this is the only hope we have, the hope of a nation, when we are supported by the international community. Urging all in the international community and also thanking them for the support they have continued to give us as we go forward. Thanking all Zimbabweans, all citizens of Zimbabwe, and all those on the African continent who have continued to stand with the people of Zimbabwe in the struggle. I thank you, fellow countrymen. God bless you. God bless Africa. Thank you.